Before we start, I would like to ask your help to do two things. First, tell a friend or two who you think might like the show. And second, please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The more reviews the show gets, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Thank you, and now on to the show.
They make the trek out to Burning Man for a week and a day. After a lot of work, oh, there's a lot of play. Party, 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 drama, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch. Year after year, they come back to scratch that itch. They all say their lives have been changed. After many years, lives have been rearranged. That change is what this show is all about. You'll see the impact of Burning Man up and out. So sit back, relax, and cancel all your plans. These are the stories about the shadow of the man.
Hello, and welcome to the Shadow of the Man Show. I am your host, Andy. Oh, what did you let in the house now? Oh, that Andy? Okay, today our guest is the one, the only, the Miss P Segal. Welcome.
Thank you, Andrew.
So, Harley, who I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, which is time-wise when people are listening to this, is probably going to be, like the end of March when it comes out. But Harley's going to be like January 1st, so this will be like much later. So she has suggested interviewing you, and she described you. She said, "Miss P, you have to interview Miss P." And I was like, "Oh, tell me about her." She's like, "Oh, she's the grande dame of it was 1907 Golden Gate, right?"
Yes. That place really it made a lot of things happen because we brought together so many creative people under one roof, and of course it was it was the headquarters, the unofficial clubhouse for the Cacophony Society, where planning something unusual to do for our own amusement was what we did, all the time, every day, pretty much. People would just come up with ideas for things we could do that were really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And our newsletter, which was called Rough Draft, had a column where we talked about things that sounded like cacophony. And one of the things that appeared every year was this event that happened at Baker Beach, where Larry Harvey and Jerry James built this figure, a human figure, and burned it.
Mm-hmm.
So every year, we thought, sitting around 1907 coming up with our own projects, we thought about, we should go. And some of the people involved with Cacophony actually volunteered at that beach event for a long time. And they said, yeah, you should come.
Well, how long was because it started in 1986, right? I mean, so how long before Cacophony showed up?
I think the first Cacophony people to show up, like John Law and Michael,
mm-hmm.
Probably went the second year or third year. But the fourth year, a lot of us showed up. I came with three of the people that lived in 1907. And that was the year that the park police came and said, you can't burn it because it's a drought year, and on the cliffs over the beach, there are all these very, very wealthy people living,
mm-hmm.
and they are afraid that the burn would actually endanger their property. So that year there were a few hundred people at the beach because it had grown in popularity. And so my friends and I were sitting there waiting to see what was going to happen. And there was this argument, between the people who said, burn it, burn it, burn it, and the people who were actually concerned about the potential fire hazard. So we, we just sat around for a long time while there was this discussion about what we should do next. But the people that I came with had come with me the previous year to an event thrown by another artist friend of ours, Marshall Lyons, out at this weird place in Nevada. And I had not been to his previous events out there, but one of my roommates had gone to a thing that was a 22 times larger than life croquet game. And he came home with all this, all these images of, what that event was like. And I said, okay, next time Marshall does an event out there, I'm going. And so 2 years later, he hosted a project called You Gotta Regatta, which had nothing to do whatsoever with what it was, which was they invited people to bring a sculpture, anything that would move in the wind. And so my friends and I built a bed on wheels that was, we created it because one of the people that went had just published a book of poetry about a bed on wheels. So we had out there to this place, the Black Rock Desert, and it was just so stunning that while we were sitting at the beach waiting to find out what was going to happen with the figure of the man, we all looked at each other and said, we should take it out to the desert.
Was this 1989?
This was 1990.
Oh, it was 1990. So the You Gotta Regatta was that 1990?
No, that was 1989.
Oh, that was 89. Okay.
But
when you're sitting on the beach saying that you should move, it should be 1990. Okay.
Yes. So that was Memorial Day, 1990, at the beach. So, Larry was just dumbfounded. He didn't know what to do. And, I'm pulling on his sleeve saying, Larry, 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 I know what to do. I know what to do. And, he couldn't even concentrate on anything other than the current moment. So, so we finally got his attention. I think John Law finally broke through to him, and he said, "Well, how can we do that? It's so far, and nobody's going to want to go out to the desert." So we said, "We'll do it. We'll make it happen," because that's what Cacophony did. And we started meeting at 1907. A few days later, and about maybe 80 people showed up for the first, maybe not that many, 40, 50 people showed up at the house, and we talked about how we could make this happen. And by Labor Day of 1990, 89 people were headed out to the playa. with minimal equipment. We went in cars and a truck, a huge rider truck that we put the man in, and some very minimal things like the tent that we put up in the center of our circular encampment. And I did all the cooking for everybody.
Yeah, so Harley told me that you brought like a big, what was it, a turkey or something that you made out of hummus?
Oh, I made a desert out of hummus.
A desert?
Yeah. It was just a big, flat pan of hummus, and then I put palm trees made out of cinnamon sticks and herbs and rocks made out of little buns and things. So I, created this playa surrounded by, a bread
bread
background.
mountains.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's beautiful. No, because it's funny because the way that Harley described it, I was like, I couldn't quite understand. I can't remember what it was. Some animal. She was like, "Oh yeah, no, she made like a turkey or a lamb or something like out of hummus," and I was like,
"Oh,
what?
I knew what she was talking about. It was a sphinx."
Oh, and that like you managed to transport that to the playa without it like coming apart, like
I just brought the stuff and assembled it out there.
Oh, okay.
But I also brought a 40-pound clay sphinx that was made by one of the people at 1907 for a party I had catered for a band called I can't remember. I was a caterer for years.
Oh.
And I had a restaurant also for years. Anyway, so I was catering this party for this band called the Blue Nile, and my one of the housemates made me a big clay sphinx, which was one of the props for the catering gig. So I think it was the second year I brought that out to the playa to for a prop.
Yeah.
But then when we were leaving, I was pretty tired of tripping over the huge clay sphinx at 1907. And so the day we were leaving the playa, I walked out very far where the surface of the playa hadn't been disturbed at all. And I plunked the sphinx down and left it there. Well, I heard the following year that the kids in Gerlach went out to visit the Sphinx all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because to them it was like a really weird thing, and not that many really weird things happened in Gerlach in those days.
Well, I'm sure not much of anything happened.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, of course, because the rains would turn Playa into Lake Lahontan once again every year, the clay just melted into the playa. Afterwards, I felt bad because I realized that, the clay was not the same clay as the playa. And so I had actually disturbed the ecosystem by leaving that out there.
Yeah, well, Yeah, I think it's a learning curve to everybody, like going out to the Black Rock Desert. And the story I always tell everyone
Absolutely.
is when my brother and I first went in '96. We didn't really know much about it. We thought it was just a camping trip, and we were used to camping. And when you go camping, you dig a hole in the ground and you build a fire pit, and you have a fire. And then when you're done, you kick the dirt over it to be responsible, and,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and you bury it. Like that's a responsible thing to do, right?
Yeah, right. Anywhere else in the world, but
Yeah.
and I have pictures of the clay sphinx which I can send you.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna put that in the show notes or something. Yeah. So you said you were caterer and had a restaurant. Was that the Proust? Did you say the Proust Cafe?
Yeah, Cafe Proust, yes.
Cafe Proust. Yeah.
That was one of my big cacophony events. I got 40 people to read Proust with me.
So going back to the origins of 1907 Golden Gate. So when did you? Because 1907 Golden Gate was like it's an old San Francisco. I guess it used to be like a mansion or something many years ago. I was reading somewhere that it was like
Yes.
one of the few structures that actually survived the earthquake and fire. Um, but like so when did you rented it out in like the 80s or something?
Yeah, 1984. When I was uh, when I came back from college, I moved back into North Beach, where I was born and raised. Um, and got this. I got a flat for $300
Wow.
in North Beach. It's like 10 times that now.
Oh yeah.
More than that, like 20 times that now.
Yeah.
But my landlord, who was Chinese, told me one day that his daughter was moving here from Hong Kong and she wanted my flat. So I had to move, and I couldn't find another place in North Beach. There was simply not another vacancy.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking outside the neighborhood for places that would work. And so I went out to this neighborhood, which was, pretty much straight up ghetto in the middle, and an inner city neighborhood that was once very beautiful, but had gotten extremely run down
Mm-hmm.
over the years. And I looked at this place. It was the building was actually one of the first apartment buildings in San Francisco. There were 3 floors and the ground floor, and the flat that I rented there was the top floor and the attic
Huh.
for $1,800. It was 4,800 square feet
Wow.
and 14 rooms. So I filled it with artists.
Wow.
I mean, some of my friends moved in there with me, and then we got, we just put out the word and got a lot of other artists to move in there with us. But there was so much space. You could be there all day and not know that anybody else was home, because it was huge.
Yeah.
And it was the best party space I've ever had in my life. We did phenomenal, enormous parties there, especially around the end of the year. We'd start with Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, and then we'd do um, Christmas, 7 Fishes, uh, and then right after New Year we did um, what's it called? The 12th night.
Oh, 12th.
And then, of course, right after we got back from the playa with Burning Man, we did decompression.
Oh, really? Even way back then?
Yeah, the first one was 1990. And, we came home from the playa with, everything covered with dust. And we just left all the dust on everything. Because, there were all these, wooden floors, and we just left all the dust everywhere so that when we did the party, it was like being back at the playa.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how soon after you moved in 1984 did Cacophony kind of come around and use it as a de facto kind of headquarters?
Well, some of our roommates were art students at the Academy of Art, and at that particular time, there was a woman who was a student there and got to know our roommates, and her name was Carrie Galbraith. She was a member of Cacophony, but before that, she'd been a member of the Suicide Club.
Oh.
So, Carrie told the roommates, you got to meet these friends of mine. You'll really like them. And so we were throwing one of our massive social events, and they were invited to come. So I'm in the all redwood back parlor, chatting with some of the guests, when I see a hand coming in from outside an open third floor window. And I knew perfectly well there was absolutely nothing outside that window except the wall. And then a few minutes later, John Law comes climbing in through the window. He somehow managed to climb the building. But he was a daredevil in those days. So, and that was how I met my first, a member of the Cacophony Society. And of course, as Carrie surmised, we loved them, and they loved 1907. It was just a wonderful place to gather because it was beautiful, beautiful. It was built by the building was built by the architects who designed the dome of City Hall.
Oh.
And they built this building for themselves. And it was like, and they got the top floor, which had, the views. And so anyway,
wow.
they built it with, all redwood. The back parlor was redwood floor to ceiling, and the ceiling and the floors. It was just really an extraordinarily charming place. But when the neighborhood got run down somewhere around the 40s, 30s or 40s,
Mm-hmm.
The building where what's her name? Anyway, so here was this building, and it was surrounded by mostly boarded up places.
Huh.
And it was an all black neighborhood. It was actually perhaps the most friendly pleasant neighborhood to live in I ever had. It was these people were mostly veterans who came back to uh, um, buy houses in San Francisco on the GI Bill.
Oh, okay.
And so they, they bought these houses that were in, disrepair, and slowly over the years, fixed them up.
Yeah,
And they were fascinated by those weird people who moved into 1907 and did all these interesting things. Some of them actually came to some of our parties, and they always invited us to theirs. Like on the 4th of July, every family on the block came out and set up a sort of picnicky thing.
okay. It's like a block party kind of thing.
Yes, yes. And they were from, all the various states, mostly from the South.
Mm-hmm.
And they all had different versions of the same dishes. And they would, they'd say, "Oh, come and have our, or this or that, our barbecue sauce," and and there was this one guy who always carried my groceries home from the market.
Huh.
It was just amazingly friendly place. And I really got to love it.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm actually just looking at it, just Googled some pictures of it. I mean, just the wood and like inside. I'm like, my God, this looks amazing. So you had the top floor because I guess there was like a second and third floor too. So who lived there? Was it just other tenants?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, because you had the top floor, like you didn't have the whole building, right? I mean,
no, we had the top floor and the attic,
yeah.
which was the same size.
So what about the people who lived like on the second or the third floor? How did they put up with all these cacophony parties? Or did they like it?
Well, Harley lived right below us.
Okay.
In fact, she was one of the people that read Proust with me. And after that first year at the Playa, I said to Harley, "You have to come because we're doing this again. You have to come next year." And she said, "I don't like the desert. I don't want to go." I said, "You have to go."
So was it just by happenstance that Harley was just like had moved into the apartment downstairs? Like it was not, that wasn't connected to cacophony or anything at all?
Oh, she was dating one of my roommates. And she of course became a member of the household because she came to see him. But when she needed to find another place and the apartment below us was available, she took it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yes.
So 1990, the park police kicks Burning Man like out of Baker Beach, and you guys decide to take the famous zone trip number 4 out to the Black Rock Desert. So did 1907 Golden Gate like continue to be, well, or how much longer was it kind of like a nexus of activity for?
Well, let's see. I opened the Center Camp Cafe in '95. And then by 2000, I mean, I pretty much survived over the years without ever having a real job,
Mm-hmm.
And at some point I realized I needed to do something else. And I opened the restaurant in '99. And after that, I mean, I closed the restaurant in '99 to do the cafe, but it almost cost me the business.
Oh.
You can't close a new business for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
and survive, because we opened it for almost nothing.
Wow.
Because I had this army of artists to take an empty space and make it fabulous. And we bought everything secondhand. It was
Yeah.
Anyway, I realized that I absolutely could not, you know, close the restaurant again to do the cafe.
Mm. Well, how long did you operate the Cafe Proust for? You said you opened it in
Oh my
'99?
God. I opened it in '99, and then I, never had any money. We just operated by the, uh, by good fortune that we managed to make enough money to stay open.
Mm-hmm.
But after 3 years, I was able to apply for an SBA loan.
Okay.
I did. And they, the director of the SBA, of the local SBA, said, how much did you spend to open this place? And when I told her, she just was, her jaw dropped. She said, "You opened a restaurant in San Francisco for $60,000?" And I said, "Yeah."
But you think you were lying or something?
It was just unheard of. It costs,
Yeah.
a few $100,000 to open a restaurant here now, or even then, actually.
Oh yeah.
So she said, "How much money do you want?" And I said, 100,000. And she said, "I'm not giving you 100,000. I'm giving you 200,000.
Okay. You're not
You'll
asking
have
for
the
enough.
check. You'll have the check in 3 weeks."
Wow.
So we waited for the check, and about 10 days later, 9/11 happened.
Oh.
So that was that for me ever getting any money from the SBA. We kept it open for a year after that, uh, just simply because the neighborhood wouldn't let us close.
Really?
People just, invested money into keeping it open. But in fact, it was our success that killed us, because we we never had enough money to make more money. It takes money to make money,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Then I knew I had to get a real job, and so I went to graduate school.
Oh. What did you go to
Yeah,
graduate school for?
I became a therapist.
Oh.
I hated it. Well, I didn't hate it, but I had spent my whole life basically enjoying it, doing things just for the sheer pleasure of making amazing things happen. And suddenly, I had this career where I sat every day listening to people complain about how terrible their lives were. And at one point, I was on my way in, to see clients one day, and I got this idea that I was going to ask everybody how they amused themselves, what they did for fun. And if they had nothing, no external thing, to amuse them, how did they amuse themselves?
Yeah.
And every one of those people looked at me and said, watch a movie, read a book. I said, no. How do you make up your own entertainment?
Huh.
And none of them really could offer me anything, that explained their idea of creative fun. So I said, okay, that's your homework. I want you to come up with something that you do without any external stimulus to enjoy yourself. Well, about a couple of months later, these people started telling me, you know, I've been feeling so much better lately. Maybe I don't need to come so often.
Really?
And before I knew it, my entire clientele was gone.
So successfully put yourself out of business.
Yes, it was a very successful practice, but I was really glad to be out of it because, being a therapist is really hard work. You especially if you're an empathetic person.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I would sometimes go home at the end of the day and cry.
Wow.
About how miserable some people were and how badly they were treated by their families and all these things. And so I just wanted to do something else.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's get back to the so you said you opened the Center Camp Cafe in 1995. So when did you stop doing, or when did your participation in that kind of cease? Because I guess you said, was it 99 when you opened the Cafe Proust and then realized you couldn't do both?
Yeah. So by 2000, I just stayed in the city, and and most of my staff went.
Okay.
But by then, the number of people leaving the city during that period of time to go to Burning Man, especially in our neighborhood, was huge. And so, the clientele was limited. We operated on a limited staff, and through one wonderful party where we covered the floors of Cafe Proust with beach sand and tents.
Really?
Yeah. We threw a not at Burning Man party. But, it was, again, in the years after Burning Man became known, and this is especially true after Elon Musk came to the playa in 1997.
Oh, is that when he first went?
Huh. Yeah. And he started telling all the tech people, you gotta go,
Really?
And during the time of people being out on the playa, there were plenty of places to park all over town.
Oh yeah.
The restaurants were empty. It really made an amazing difference in the way the city was, because so many people were going.
Yeah, I moved out of. I lived there from like 94 to 2001, but yeah, I remember that, like getting ready, like driving around San Francisco, and like it's like, oh, we got to go to Costco, and we got to go to the storage area, and like, oh, we got to go to Safeway, we got to pick up this and everywhere we went. Yeah. There would be like box trucks and people like loading things, and you just would have this kind of like knowing look and knowing nod, and you just be like, "You go to Burning Man? You go to Burning Man?" Like, oh, yeah,
Yeah. The excitement was really wonderful in those days.
Well, because back then, it was mostly people from San Francisco. I mean, now Burning Man has become much more like international. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, what is it like in the city, like at the end of August now? Not quite the same vibe, or
no. But living in North Beach, there are almost no artists here anymore. There are almost no, people who don't make, lots and lots of money. And I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just not the same
Yeah.
place. The city's not the same.
Well, it's funny because you're saying in
So
1984 you rented out a 4,800 square foot 14 room top floor for $1,800. I remember like when my now wife, like girlfriend back then, like we moved to San Francisco in '94 and we got like it was like a studio apartment for like 325, and then
yeah.
we got this like quote unquote 2 bedroom, but it was really like one of the bedrooms was like a living room. It was like $1,300 or something, and we're like, wow, that's a lot of money. And then which later went up to like 1,500. And then I remember like one of our things, like on the weekends we just like wander around and be like, oh look, there's an open house. It's like, let's just go in and we just like going in people's houses and checking things out. But I remember Noe Valley, there's still like $600,000 like detached single
Yeah.
family homes. And I'm sure now it's like multi-million dollar. Yeah. So
Yeah.
have you been going to Burning Man like all these years, or like at what point did or did you stop going, or do you still go?
I haven't been in a long time. I think the last year I went was 2016. But I had gone for years with the same people.
Mm-hmm.
And after I lost 1907, I didn't have things anymore. I didn't have a huge storage space. I didn't have tents and sleeping bags and anything. I also didn't have anybody who would drive me out there because I don't drive.
Oh.
And the last time I went, I couldn't find anybody to give me a ride.
Really?
Because the only reason why people would give you a ride to go out to the playa was because you were going to be the person who spent 8 hours behind the wheel of the vehicle that it took to get from the road to the gate.
Huh.
And when I said, well, I don't have a driver's license, they said, well, sorry, we're not taking you.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, by then, by 2016, it was like, nobody knew who I was anymore.
Yeah. Isn't that a thing? Well, no, because I've interviewed a number of people. Like, we're talking to Adriana Roberts, who did the Piss Clear, or not, Piss Clear and Black Rock Gazette, and she went to Burning Man for decades, and I remember talking to her. It's like, oh, you should come back, and she was just like, I don't think anyone would know who I am. I mean, I felt the same way. Like I took like 13 years off. I mean, I first went in '96, but then by 2011. That was the last year I went, and then 2024 I went back, and I stayed with some friends and some old friends, some new friends, but yeah, it's kind of strange, like time passing you by, and you're just like people coming up to it's like, oh, is this your first burn? And you're like, no.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe like no one would give you a. We'll have to change that. Well, if you want to go back, we'll make things happen.
I think about it from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But what I loved about Burning Man that first decade was that we were making it up as we went along.
Oh yeah.
And I love the making things happen stage of experience. Most of all.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think Burning Man has gone through different eras. Like there's the Baker Beach and then like the 1990 to say 1996 or so, and then like after like a 96 when they actually kind of more like incorporated and got a little more started formalizing, I guess, a little more. And then I would say from 96 to maybe 2011 or 20, I think 2011 was the first year it sold out. And then, 2012 to roughly 2022 or 23 or so, it's, when, that was like all of the sold out years, and now it kind of seems it's almost like it's like a new era has kind of started, like in the past couple of years, where it's like it hasn't quite sold out, and I don't know, the vibe is kind of shifting back a little bit, but I don't know, it's still kind of early. But so when did you lose 1907 Golden Gate?
2004.
Well, one of the things I was reading in the Cacophony Society book is that like it's like the heyday of the Cacophony Society was more like the 80s, maybe early 90s. And I'm not sure if it was attributed to you, but like somebody said something about that the rough draft, like the paper newsletter that went around that would like let everybody know what was going on. I mean, some people would subscribe and get it mailed to them. Some people would just pick it up at a coffee house or something. Once like the internet came around, it's like the paper newsletter wasn't really as needed anymore. And I think I'm not sure if it was attributed to you, but they said like, oh yeah, the internet basically killed Cacophony.
Actually, Burning Man kind of killed Cacophony.
Oh yeah,
because in the in the early years, we would just gather around the kitchen table and come up with some new weird thing to do for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But after we went out there the first year, we gathered around the kitchen table to plan what we were going to do for Burning Man the next year. And a lot of the projects were fairly large, for people who didn't really have, workshops and things like that. So, we put all of our attention really into going to Burning Man and developing a culture of Burning Man, which was fascinating too. It was really, we loved that as much as we had loved, midnight walks through sewers in formal dress, all these bizarre things, reading Proust,
climbing
all
bridges.
these things we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, we put all of that creative energy into, making Burning Man more and more fascinating and entertaining and inclusive. We spent so much time, talking people into coming out next year. So basically, the size of the Burning Man community pretty much doubled every year for a long time. Like the first year there were almost 100 people. The second year there were 200 people. The third year there were 400 people.
Yeah.
So it was, it was a wonderful thing to make happen.
So back in San Francisco at 1907, so starting in 1990, like Burning Man was just sort of sucking the oxygen out of the room for local cacophony events and things.
Absolutely. But it was so good. It was worth it.
Well, what about like the rough draft and I mean, were there any other like zone trips or any other like, walking through the sewer? I mean, like, did that all just immediately dry up or did it just kind of peter out over time or?
Well, there were occasional events, but it pretty much evaporated, after a year or two. there was a sort of splinter group of younger people who started their own kind of, cacophony equivalent and kept things going. But those of us who had, put all our energy into creating Burning Man for the first few years pretty much stayed there.
Mm. So when was the last issue of the Rough Draft then? Or has it continued on?
It has not continued on. But I can't actually remember what year it was.
Mid 90s or early 90s, you think maybe?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, I have all the issues in a box in storage. And I could actually go through the box and tell you when the last.
Yeah. Well, no, just kind of curious. Yeah. Well, that's kind of interesting because, like, back in era, like, I was just watching a movie with my wife, and it was like set in like the mid 90s, and there's like people like walking down the street, and like absolutely no one was looking at their hand. Like no one was looking at a phone. And I was just like, wow, what a different world. Like,
yeah,
I mean, perhaps it's something like
still don't look at my phone.
Yeah, but perhaps something like cacophony is like, what society kind of needs now is a little more like immediacy, like people kind of get out and do something, get out of their, their comfort zone and do something more immediate, like with other people.
I understand that there are, cabals of young people doing their own stuff, like John Law, who was, very, very central to making Burning Man happen, and now hangs out with a bunch of, like college age kids who do things like set up clubhouses in underground places under the city.
Mm-hmm.
Do all these other, urban exploration kind of events.
Yeah, but it's all very kind of underground, right? I mean, it's kind of they don't really publicize it,
right? They don't at all. Whereas it was, Cacophony's thing was to, to engage people, to bring people in, to make, to build the community. These people are much more exclusionary, partially, by necessity, because so much of what they do is, not legal.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be in underground, property that's owned by the city and, is where, various and sundry things related to the functioning of the city go on,
Well, I'm sure also post 9/11, it takes on a whole different flavor, like trespass or criminal trespass. It's like, oh, that's a,
absolutely, yeah.
So let's see. Let's get to our second question. Then, so where does life begin for you? So, like, where are you born? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Beach.
Oh. So you're San Francisco native through and through.
Yeah. My real name is Roberta Pizzamenti.
Ah.
I just happened to marry someone named Segal when I was in college. And by curious coincidence, so many people we knew had the same first name that we called each other by the first initials of our last names.
Oh.
So my first initial was P.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only one that stuck. And that's why I became P Segal, because I knew too many people with the same first name.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And you know, I grew up in the Italian community, and I adored North Beach. It was so charming. It was, you know, the beat poets had moved to North Beach in the late 40s after World War II,
Mm-hmm.
because it was the one place in San Francisco that in the United States that reminded them of Europe.
Ah.
And you know, we you know, sit in the Cafe Trieste and watch you know, all these famous writers sit there and, you know, work on their screenplays or their novels or whatever. And there were all these filmmakers in the neighborhood. Of course, Zoetrope Studios was opened here, and City Lights. You couldn't go into a cafe in those days and not meet somebody who was writing a book. It's just, you know, every third person was writing a book.
No, it's just funny because I was Googling just some pictures of Cafe Proust, San Francisco, and Cafe Trieste keeps coming up.
Yeah.
That's funny.
You know, that was our clubhouse in those days.
Ah.
And also the Savoy Tivoli.
So were your parents, did they grow up in San Francisco, or are they from Italy?
My father came from Sicily, actually. And, let's see, what year did he come here? I can't remember exactly what year he moved here, but and my mother grew up in the Italian community in New York. Well, she was born here, but English was her second language. So my family was very old world.
Yeah. Well, no, because my father was born in the U.S., but like his parents came through Ellis Island. Like they're both, you know, like from northern Italy, near like Torino. And yeah, and I just remember like the Sunday morning or Sundays, you know, driving to grandma's house, and we'd have this big, huge spread, and it's like all homemade like ravioli and pasta. Even to this day, you know, it's like I'm teaching my son, you know, like how to make pasta and ravioli and stuff. It's like, oh, this is how grandma would make it, you know.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask you, because obviously your name suggested that you too came from the same.
Yeah.
Well, not the same, because the Northerners and the Southerners are quite different.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I have a lifelong love of panettone and risotto. You know, which is more Northern Italian than Southern Italian, I guess. Yeah.
Can't blame you at all.
Yeah. Just even now, this time of year, we're in Christmas. I just remember like all the Christmas cookies. You know, it's like all the Italian Christmas cookies, like of all the different shapes and sizes and colors.
Yeah. I'm just about to make them.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. But, you know, for the first time in my life, I live in a place so small that I don't have room for, I can't even invite friends to dinner.
Really?
This is heartbreaking for me.
Yeah. So what is life like from that? Because I know we talked before, and so you have like a new project trying to find like housing for artists. Like, tell me about that.
Yes. I guess, you know, right around the time I stopped going to Burning Man, almost exactly at the same time, in fact, I realized that almost all my artist friends had moved out of the city because it was no longer possible to afford housing and studio space, or to work part-time like we, you know, all did. You know, like I do about, maybe 3 catering gigs in a month, and then I had the rest of my time to, write books or whatever, do creative projects. And of course, by then the cost of living here had, gone up significantly. So I realized that, the only way that we could restore the arts community was to create co-ops, where you could live at a, for a reasonable amount of money in exchange for contributing to the functioning of the co-op. And you could also use the co-op businesses to promote the work of the artists who live there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like a building would have a gallery space or a cafe or a bookstore. So I started evolving this concept of how to do it and talking to people about it. And in fact, in 2016, on the way out to the playa, it was 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed at the hotel in Gerlach that was started by a couple of brothers who bought an old hotel and turned it into a I guess you'd call it a stop on the way to the playa.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it, but they actually helped me set up a nonprofit.
Country Motel or Bruno's? No.
Why can't I remember their names? They were they were such lovely people. But then I began investigating the philanthropy. Where could I get the money to do this? And it turns out pretty much that there isn't a foundation in America that cares about housing artists. I mean, America commodifies artists completely.
Mm-hmm.
They're producers of things that you buy. They're not part of the common good. They're not important parts of the social fabric,
Yeah.
And so I started, I became a, I guess you'd say, philosopher on the subject of the importance of art in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something that everyone in Europe knows. Everyone, in fact, all over the world knows. We're one of the few countries on the entire planet that doesn't have an arts secretary on the cabinet.
Huh. Never knew that.
And yeah, I mean, every European country subsidizes artists. They subsidize bookstores. They subsidize anything that is part of the developing culture. And this country doesn't. And so I've been advocating for the value of artists for just about 10 years and writing about it a lot, publishing articles, getting interviewed. And it's only been in the most the last year or two that people have started to take me seriously.
Huh. Well, I just think it's very
In fact,
interesting that you take like a an area that people don't want to live in, or that someone would call it blighted or whatever, or undesirable. And then like, artists are like, oh, that's a cheap place to live. Like kind of like what you're saying with like 1907 Golden Gate, and then people like move into these neighborhoods and then make it kind of hip, and they kind of fix it up. And then other people are like, oh, is this the new arts community? And then rates start going up, and then, more wealthy people start moving in, and then the artists can't afford to live there. And now, I don't know, it just seems like an interesting sort of cycle, but the artists, I don't know, they kind of come in and fix it up, but then can't stay there. And then where do they go? Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the way I have been able to, help promote the idea of, settling artists in cities. I just published an article in a magazine for city planners, where I talk about how this phenomenon exists, and if all the various ways that artists are beneficial for the urban community, and how you can use their presence to make things better. So,
what was where was that published, and what was the name of the article? I'll put it in my show notes.
It's called, the magazine's called Planetizen, and it's been around for like 35 or 40 years or something. I can actually send you a link to the article.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And here now, what they're doing is they're just trying to move out all the people who aren't rich. It's part of a plan devised at Stanford in the early 80s. A development plan for the Bay Area, where the idea was to put all the rich people in San Francisco and move everybody else out to the suburbs.
It seems kind of like a not very well thought out plan, though, don't you think? I mean, because I remember like even when I was living there, like in the 90s, and like people were getting priced out, and it's like, well, where are all the essential workers going to come from? Like, oh, well, they can just commute 2-3 hours, whatever. And it's like, you really think people are going to want to do that? It's like, are all these rich people going to serve themselves? Are they going to have robots?
Right. Yeah, I know. I mean, sometimes I think it would, just serve them right if people stopped being willing to commute into the city to take care of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, kind of running up on time here. We need to get to our last question. So the impact or influence of Burning Man on your life.
On my life?
Yeah. I would say, what would you say?
Well, Larry told me somewhere in the early 20-teens, he said, you don't have to come to Burning Man anymore. You know what it is because you live that way. And so, in some ways, I'd like to think that I was able to give something about what I know about life to the experience of being out there. Did it change my life? Absolutely. But, I've always been an enormous believer in community, sharing, giving whatever you had to give to people, assuming the good in people. and making things happen. And those have been part of my my personal philosophy pretty much all my life. And so, what was so wonderful about Burning Man was seeing how many other people responded so fully to things that I believed myself. I remember one time out on the playa, or in the early years, I saw someone walking towards me. I was walking alone, between one place and the next, and another person was walking alone between one place and the next. And we just met and embraced each other, and then walked away. And it was symbolic of the the family of man, the love for our fellow human beings. And after Silicon Valley became so prevalent out there and had their little separated facilities with all those service vehicles and everything, and they wouldn't let you in.
Your compounds, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when it was no longer so compelling to go for me, because that openness, that universal loving sensibility that characterized the early years, had kind of been co-opted by people who didn't understand that. It's still out there. I know it's still out there, even though I haven't been in years.
Oh yeah.
Because I know, I know what it has done for people who had never been before. I meet people who had just gone for the first time, and we're just so blown away by what is possible out there.
Oh yeah.
So it's still there. I know it's still there. And what's going on right now with the reorganization is very significant. I think it's going to perhaps return to a lot of the old values.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think there's definitely like a generational kind of handoff that's starting to begin to happen as well. And like you're saying, like these giant pay for play camps and these like tech oligarchs and whatever. It's like, yeah, I mean that's definitely was like an era of Burning Man, but it definitely seems like now that I've kind of gone back like 2 years and last 2 years, like I don't know, it definitely seems like a bit of a shift. And I don't know, I always ask like my guests, like what impact and what influences Burning Man, and I try not to like lead the witness or put the words in people's mouth, but it's funny because like the theory of my show, like everyone keeps coming back to the same thing. It's kind of like what you just said. It's what I call a connection, or people. The question I always asks is like, it's like, why go? Why keep going back? Like, like after like all these years, and you spend all this money and you run through all these relationships, and it's so hard, hard, and what people keep coming back to, it's like it's relationships, it's connections, and like you're saying, like just two random people meeting on the playa. I mean, it's like that's something you can find out there, or perhaps I guess now in regional events too, but not so much in regular everyday life. I try to do that. I see someone at a street corner and I look in their eyes and go, hi, and they're kind of freaked out, like, oh my God, this guy's talking to me.
Yeah. I can't help myself from smiling at strangers all the time, in passing,
Yeah.
just because I don't know. I don't know why, but just to let them know that they're valued.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we should, if you ever want to come out to the playa, I could definitely, we can talk, we can help get you out there, but I'm sure there'd be lots of people who'd love to see you.
Some people I know and love still go on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But have you met Rob Schmidt?
Rob Schmidt. No. Who's Rob Schmidt?
He's kind of like a shadow, I don't know, asset to the project. He's there. He makes things happen. He's always he knows everybody. He knows how to make things work. Anyway, he still goes every year and camps in the periphery. Does whatever is needed and leaves. But I do not know any people anymore who will come drive into San Francisco to get me and my stuff and take me out there and have a tent for me and all that stuff. So that's why I have not been. But everything is changing at this very moment in time with making the art house project happen. And after that happens, a lot of other things will also happen. Like I can see taking out a huge community of art house people to do Burning Man.
Mm-hmm.
And make things.
So Art House that's the name of the co-op, the artist co-op project you're working on?
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a link for that, or if someone like looked it up, it would just be like Art House?
Yes, absolutely. It's the website is arthousesf.org.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll put that in my show notes too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful, wonderful interview, and yeah, well, we should stay in touch. I mean, I'm not going out next year, but maybe the year after. But I don't know. Well, would love to help facilitate you coming back out to the playa one of these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do miss it in some ways. Although I must say I was delighted not to be there when it was pouring this year.
Well, yeah. I think that, what was it, 2023 when it rained for like a day or 2 or 3, whatever many days straight. Like that was I think much, much, much worse. I mean, this year was I mean, I was stuck in line for 20 hours like my brother trying to get in yeah, I mean, but it builds character.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to do this, by the way.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate, and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. The more reviews the show has, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Also, please tell a friend and share this show with anyone that you think might like it. Word of mouth reaches quite far, especially in the Burning Man community. If you would like to contact us, please send an email to shadowofthemanpodcast shadowofthe.man@gmail.com. You can also follow Shadow of the Man on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, and YouTube. The links for all of these are available at shadowoftheman.com. Feel free to use any of these social media accounts to provide any feedback you might have. Your thoughts on the show are greatly appreciated. Thank you, and see you soon for a new episode of The Shadow of the Man.
Thank you for listening to this latest show. We have to make another one, so gotta go. Don't worry, for next month we already have one in the can. Very soon you'll be listening to a new Shadow of the Man.